Ashgacha brought this today's story. There are thousands of stories, and I stumbled upon this from one thing to the other yesterday, quickly looking for. And stories like this, just a little bit of a quick background. There was a fellow, he was called the Tzaddik of Ranana. He died in the late 70s. A fascinating history. He was a Tzaddik, Kipshuta. He was in Lubavitch. He was a Mekurev to all of the great Rebbes. And he was there's tremendous letters that the Fidige Rebbe to him, famous letters to him, and Aval Rebbe as well. And he wrote several Sfarim, and in one of them, he was in Siberia, he was arrested, exiled. You can see a picture of him. Yitzchak Huberman was his name. So in his Sefer, he wrote stories he heard from Chassidim and from Rabbi, Chabad. Okay, so this is the first story. We'll start it. Try and finish it. So once the Maggid commanded they should harness the horses before Shachris and took the Chevra Kadisha, and they're traveling for a considerable time. At some point, the Maggid asked the Chavrai Kadisha, what time is it? And they told him, it's 2 p.m. We haven't davened Shachris, what should we do? Asked the Maggid again. And this was in the winter, and the days were short. So he said, ask the wagon driver, where's the nearest Kerechman, the nearest inn? And said, go there quickly. They came, they told Mendel Vitebsker, Mendel, according to the story, go inside and see if we can daven. In this Kerechman, this inn, the Mendel went in and he said, it's full of Gentiles. You can't even put a needle inside. So then they sent the Beditchev, Rabbi Yitzchak Beditchev. He came back and said, Rebbe, there's no room. Then he sent the Alter Rebbe, who came back with a similar response. Said the Maggid, no choice, the hour is late, we have to push in. So the Maggid pushed in, and with all of his strength, till he was able to get into the room, and afterwards, the Chevra Kadisha followed him. The Maggid went to the table, and the Chavrai heard who they were, the Vitebsker, the Yitzchak Baditchev, the Alter Rebbe, followed him. On the table, there were people there, underneath the table, on the oven, on the stove, and it was a pale how they even got in. The Maggid put his talis and tefillin on the table, listen to every detail, and the older ones there moved a little bit and made place. The Chevra Kadisha, Chavrai Kadisha, the same thing, put the talis and tefillin. They began to daven, and the children, the little ones, were playing around them and disturbing the davening. The Alter Rebbe said, related the story afterwards, and said he looked, he examined the room, and he saw that there's no openings. The windows and even the aruba, the yeah, kind of skylight and attic to the roof, all closed the entire time. And nonetheless, as they were davening, the inhabitants were becoming just disappearing, less and less. They came to Yotzer Oyer, there wasn't even one left, only the small children, and they disappeared after Shmoneh Esrei. The end of the davening, the Maggid called over the owner of the Kerechman, the owner of the inn. Was very happy that the Maggid had come and visited him. How are you? So he says, well, Rabbi says it's a terrible winter, no one's visiting the house, and he doesn't have any panosa. Then the Maggid says to him, what's with the family? He says he married his one daughter and one son, and since his son is very poor, he took him and his daughter-in-law into the house. The Maggid screamed at him, what are you saying? And ran out of the Kerechman. From these words, this innkeeper got the Keich of Tshuva and ran after the Maggid, Rebbe, help me. But the Maggid said, ignore him, travel. And he's running after them until he collapses. And then the Maggid said, stop, and to wait for him. But as soon as he came to the wagon, the Maggid said, instructions to go further. And so he ran. And so it continued till they came to Mizrich. The Maggid went into his room and didn't allow this fellow to follow him. He's outside, tearing literally his hair from his head and crying bitterly from the depth of his heart till he was near death. Then the Maggid said to his Mishodes, go to this fellow, tell him to go outside, take off his clothes and immerse in snow till his neck and say the whole Tehillim word for word. He did this. He didn't think of the danger because I'm reading, translating, Mos B'chayav, his life became despicable in his own eyes if he doesn't do tshuva, become not accepted in complete tshuva. But the Chevra Kadisha were very afraid, and each moment was like a year. And they're standing by the door of the Maggid. Maybe he'll say, bring him in. And the man is the fellow's in the snow. In his right hand, a candle, and the left hand, Tehillim. And he's saying Tehillim word for word. After a few hours, the Maggid said, bring him in. And when they ran out to him, he was just finishing the final words. Look of Tehillim. Said the Alter Rebbe, we see here, and everything has to be at its time. The Maggid said, now, had they delayed, wouldn't have been right. Now, at the end of the story, the Chassidic said, you understand the story, what happened here? With his daughter-in-law, so the Chassidic said like this, from here you can understand the great Isser of Nida, even though Nida is Bekoris, it's not a public execution. Whereas she was married to his son, and the daughter-in-law, it's a separate Isser, and they're Beskila. What do we see here? That from the Isser of Nida, they were the small children. Because lesser Isser, but they were much more difficult in Mimvatal. They stayed till, it's all clippers coming in this guise. And they were much more difficult clipper, and therefore, as you've heard of the story, they're only in this battle after Shmoneseh. They only became nullified. And from the Isser, the prohibition of her, she was married, and the daughter-in-law, these were the mashchisim agdolim, the more destructive elements, but they were in this battle earlier in the story by Yetzer Eir, and furthermore, if you remember the story, they made place, and the Maggid put down his talis and tefillin, they made place. Ad kan Moishe. It's one of the takeaways in the story is that sometimes a smaller Isser that carries a lesser penalty can sometimes be a much more insidious clipper. Okay, the story is a Meredith Moishe. I just wonder if others would have been there, would have even seen all this physical stuff. But these tzaddikim, the clippers are manifested in this tangible way. And then, Baruch Hashem, the Maggid brought him to tshuva. You see what tshuva is. I'm not shy there's such kind of tshuva. We should know that such kind of tshuva exists. Okay, story for Asar B'Tevis. A wonderful day, everybody. Easy fast, Mashiach now.